Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissack and Dana Gentry.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. I'm Linda McKissack.
And I'm Dana Gentry.
Hey, Dana. So you got to go to the CPA. Is it that time of year? Yeah, it's about to be,
Yes.
right? Tax season. Oh, yeah. I know that because we just got notification that we overpaid, which I love it when we overpay.
What? Oh my gosh, you are lucky.
Yeah, well, it's good though, and it's not so good because then you're like, okay, I could have spent that money this year.
Yeah. That is very true. I would much rather get an overpaid though than a big bill.
When you feel good about your CPA, sometimes I wonder, if we've outgrown ours. I feel like they should bring you ideas, and I don't know that they do that. Like we had to figure out about cost segregation ourselves, and I'm like, I kind of wish somebody brought that to us. Like, hey, I got an idea for you guys.
Actually, we switched CPAs last year or year before, and we do love our new CPA. And actually the call I have after this is with another, there are a CPA, but Adam has since told me they're more of like a financial planner, which we have one that we love, John White. And we're also we're having an exploratory call with this other guy too, because he does a little bit of different stuff. And actually, Linda, Chris Welton is who referred him to us. And he has worked with Chris Welton, who we had on the podcast with the One Jordan book.
Yeah.
Who you talked about in your class or your presentation. This guy that he referred us to that we have a call with, he had, I guess, shared with Chris a bunch of stuff that nobody else had ever shared with Chris before. So I'm anxious just to get on and see what new stuff he talks about, or maybe not new stuff. We'll see.
Okay. Well, if you get some new stuff, we'll talk about it on the podcast so everybody can know about it.
Yes. So I have to tell you something funny though, because, my whole house had the flu all last week. I didn't get it. Today I'm a little bit congested, but and I have something else to tell you too. Okay, anyway, but I swore that it was because of this nose spray that you sent me. And I've been talking about it on Instagram, and now actually they carry it at Better Life. So I was like, oh, that's good. I can get it. So it's the, I don't know, COFIXRX povidone iodine. Yeah. Okay, but I thought you were supposed to do it every day. So maybe, I don't know if that's bad or not, but I do feel like my nose is tingling.
Yeah, it does burn, and it does burn right away. I don't know, because our longevity doctor told us about it, and then our pharmacist told us about it back during COVID was real bad, and then flu season. But since then, I think I was seeing one of my health people in Montana, and I was just asking her about it. I don't know. I always usually like run it by people and see if she's heard anything about it. But she said that she actually had a client at one time that never got sick, and she used iodine in her nose. So, and I know that's the main thing in that one. Is. But if you go to their website, or actually, I think it's called Pharmalink or something.
Oh,
if you Google it. If you buy one, it's $24, which is kind of high. But if you buy like multiples, like 24 or 48 or whatever, they go down to like $14 and something. That's what I do. I just buy that because I know we're going to use it. I'm never going to stop using it because
and I saw Adam and I said, you probably need your own. And he said, why? I said, I don't know. Cause I don't know if I want this to go up your nose and go up my nose.
What's funny is one day we were at a big conference in Florida with our tech people and press. And we're like, Jimmy has to try this. He gave them ours. They all used it up their nose, and press got COVID.
Oh God.
So I'm like, I don't think that's what you're supposed to do. Everybody needs their own.
Only press too.
And what's bad is we were flying out to go to Montana, and Jimmy, that's my baby.
I remember that.
Jimmy wouldn't let me like take him with me or drop him off in Ohio. I'm like, I can't leave my baby sick.
But I remember that because he took a commercial flight home, didn't he?
Later. He had to stay for almost over a week.
I remember that.
In a hotel. Now, I don't feel real sorry for him because he probably got room service and watched movies and all that stuff. And his wife was home with the toddler. So I don't feel
Anna is probably the one we should feel bad for in that scenario.
Yeah. So I think we're going to just do kind of an update today. We got a lot of stuff swirling around in the real estate industry. And I mean, I've got the public asking me about it.
Oh, yeah,
and
me too.
Explain it to them. They don't like it.
Yeah, I know. Same.
They don't think it was a great move. I just really feel like we've got serious problem that attorneys can do that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
You know what I
and
mean?
yes, and I do know what you mean, and it's ironic because this is a whole nother topic for another day, but somebody had asked me about some of the profit share stuff going on, and I feel like attorneys now, not all of them, but some of these can like bring all these people together, and people get like less than a cent on the dollar, but the
Yeah.
attorneys like make out like, crazy on this stuff.
They get rich. It's really sad. Matter of fact, I was with an attorney last week and she said it really, even I'm an attorney and these kind of attorneys don't like those kind of attorneys. So
Yeah,
if you're one of those kind of attorneys, but
yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel like they're doing good for humanity. I don't feel like, and honestly, it kind of makes you start questioning the judicial system,
Totally. Yeah.
which I've always known that's kind of crazy, but um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. It's just such a mess. I just feel like, every industry, their turn comes up, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's exempt.
Yeah.
I think we have to keep doing business as usual. And I think we will adjust until we have to do it differently. But I think just like you and I were talking about before, is you got to truly feel good about the value.
Yeah.
I mean, and we've had to convince sellers of our value. So I
Yep.
don't understand why, this I don't know. These agreements have been around forever.
Yeah.
It's just most agents wouldn't do them because they didn't feel like they wanted to explain to the
Hmm.
buyer, that they had to pay them.
Yeah, it's interesting because well, first of all, I think we have to like give a disclaimer that it's not technically been approved yet. So, when it's approved, which I think it will be approved, unfortunately, but when it is approved, like then things will change, which they're saying could technically be July-ish.
Yeah.
And NAR, I know, is still working through like how the changes will be implemented and the best practices and all that stuff. And I do think that anytime something like this happens, I feel like there are people like I got so freaking pissed, to be honest, the other day because I'm seeing these agents get on Instagram saying 500,000 agents are going to exit the business this year. 700,000 agents are going to exit the business this year. If you don't want to be one of those agents, join my team or join this brokerage. And I'm like, let's just stop putting scarcity out there like that.
Yeah.
Number one, when we have no clue what's going to happen. And number two, yeah, I do think there will be some agents that will get out just because the tightening of the market, mainly
Yeah.
for one thing. But I do think anytime something like this happens, people will pivot. If anything, real estate agents are great at pivoting. I mean, that is for
Yes.
sure.
Yes.
People will pivot. And some of them, like in my top 20% masterminds in my offices, we had some of the best ideas. I'm like, some of y'all are going to make more money than you did even before because
Yeah.
you pivot and really, really find a way. But to that buyer representation agreement form, when it gets passed, it'll have to be signed at the first communication. They'll have to disclose the amount or the rate of compensation that the agent will get who represents the buyer. It cannot be open-ended, and they'll have to say who's paying for it. So like if the seller isn't going to cover it, how much is the buyer going to cover and what are they going to get and all that stuff. In Kentucky, we've always used buyer representation agreements. They're mandatory. And so we've had to. Now, that's not to say that I'm not naive enough to think that some of our agents get them signed at the closing table because they have to have it to get paid. But we were trained that you do it when you very first meet them. So one of the things I keep telling agents, if you were worried about representing buyers and not getting paid, if you weren't using a buyer representation agreement, you've already been doing that. You've already been running them around and showing them houses and risking that they weren't going to buy anything from you and you wouldn't get paid anyway. I think it's
Yeah.
the listing agent that still has to hold really firm in their value and be able to go to their sellers or, on listing appointments and say, I charge X percentage because here's the value that you get. Here's 207 things that I do for you, which was the last list we came up with, which I'm sure there's more than that now. And I believe that it's best for you to get your home sold for us to co-op with another agent for me to share in my commission with them. Because if people go and pull, how Linda, like this was such a good idea too. You know how when you go on a listing presentation, you bring comps, right? You bring comparables of the homes that have sold around there. Well, I think now agents are going to have to bring their comps, but they're also going to have to say, hey, and by the way, out of the last 10 homes that were sold around you, here's how many sold with another agent bringing the buyer. And here's how many of those listing agents offered buyer side commission. So if 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 of them, and then this seller for some reason doesn't want to, they're going to be at a big disadvantage.
Yeah. And I think depending on the market, sellers will understand that better. You know what I mean?
Yep.
If it's a
Yep.
buyer's market, you're going to do whatever you have to do to get your house to sell. If it's a seller's
Totally.
market, that you might be a little tougher
Yeah.
on that. Yeah. I think every industry, I know the financial planners have gone through like some major changes,
Yeah.
and you just adjust. The professional people stay in and figure it out. And,
Yep.
the ones that don't want to have to do that will get out. Unfortunately, if you're in the agent business, you don't want a lot of people to get out, but they will, and then more will get in. What I love about this is the new agents will get in and not know any different than to do it the
Yeah.
way you're supposed to do it, the new way we might have to do it. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah. And I think that that's why we're hearing the new agents that are getting in the business right now will be some of the best that we've seen in this decade,
Yeah.
because just what you said, they don't have bad habits already.
Yeah.
They aren't going to know any different. They'll be trained this way right off of the bat. And I think it's a lot of, for those of us that were licensed in that 06, 07, 08 era. And then I think you got licensed during a shift too. I don't
Yeah,
remember what.
I did. It was like interest rates were 18% and they could go to 21.
Yeah.
Of course,
So
the
for
prices were lower, but still, that was super high interest
a
rates.
lot.
I remember buying my own block of bond money as an
Really?
agent. I paid the money up front, bought my own block so that my customers could have it. So you
Wow.
just figure that stuff out. You just go, how do I get creative? How do I give my people an edge? Whatever you have to do.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, the sellers will eventually be the buyers.
Yeah.
It'll flip. They'll be the buyers. And then Jimmy brought up a really good point when we were talking about the other day. He's like, what about the lead people who are giving you leads? Will those leads have to have already signed,
Yeah.
be willing to sign, a document, or are they not the same lead if they haven't done that?
Well, I kind of feel like at some point there'll have to be two forms that will come out. And I don't know if this will be like board specific or what, but there'll have to be one form that says, I represent you on this property. And then I think there'll have to be another one that'll say, I represent you for 6 months, 12 months on anything. I'm your agent, period.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
otherwise, if somebody's not, somebody may just be wanting to look at one of your listings or something like that, it's gonna, or just want to see one house. I don't know, that part I think I think there's gonna have to be two forms. I don't know how there wouldn't be.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think right now you just keep doing business as usual because nothing's been decided. Like I said, it's not been finalized and we don't want to go making changes. And yeah, people need to stay off the social media and
Yeah.
the scarcity word out there. Cause if you're trained well, which we've already started our training,
Yep.
if you're trained well and you got great training, you're going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, where I would worry is if you got a company that's not going to put the training together, you don't have the training, then that's a little different story. But as long as the conversations are being had about what training will our agents need and how do we get that to them as soon as possible.
Yeah. And just FYI, I am this week on Thursday, I think Thursday at 1 p.m. Actually, we'll link it in the show notes, but I am doing a Zoom that's open to anybody. So, I mean, you don't have to be with KW. Like, if you just are like, I feel left in the dark about this and I don't really know anything, then it's free. Hop on. I'm going to share some value that we got. And I know that Gary has been teaching that class.
Yeah. I haven't made mine yet. I have a later date coming on, but I've heard it's phenomenal. Have you been on it yet?
Mine is this Wednesday. So
it's called Value Squared, right?
Yeah, I had to miss the last one because I was actually I was teaching.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to hop on it on Wednesday, and I'll share some of the stuff that I got from there. But I did get the slides, and they're very good. Like, there's a lot of value, and I think too, Linda, like the last couple years, and it's funny because I even have been talking to some of my top agents in our offices about this. But some of them in the last 3 years, they've just gone on listing appointments. Like, they haven't even had listing presentations. They're just showing up, getting the listing, putting it on MLS, doing that, they're giving them value, but they haven't had a full blown listing presentation. And I had an agent tell me that a top agent say that at the end of last month, she went on a listing appointment and she went up again, and the seller told her that they were interviewing 4 people, and they ended up calling her and they told her that they chose her. And she said, obviously I'm excited. Great. I can't wait to work with you guys. And she said that the seller said, aren't you going to ask why we chose you and not the others? And she said, well, I'd love to hear if you're willing to share. And she said, we've sold multiple homes in different states. And so we kind of know how it goes. And she said, you were the only agent that showed up with a listing presentation.
Oh, wow.
She said the other 3 agents didn't bring us one single thing. She said one of them brought comps, but they took them with them. They didn't leave them. And the other 2 showed up with nothing. They just were there to have a conversation. And so she said, we felt like you were the professional, because of that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, agents haven't really felt like they've had to have one for so long. I know I have a listing, how to take 10 plus listings a month forever. I need to dig that course back out again and start pushing it, because you're going to have to learn how to give presentations, buyer presentations, and seller presentations.
I don't even know if you remember this or know this, but I drove to Cincinnati to hear you teach that when I was at Remax. And that was really why I joined KW, that class, because I had never heard that's such a great class. I mean, you should bring that back out.
Yeah, it really is. And the thing is, if you can learn to be a listing agent, there's so many things. Your income stops having so many dips.
Yep.
I mean, it's just to me, I don't understand why it's not taught more, and we're not teaching people right off the bat to learn to be a listing agent. And I think it's because when you're new, 80% of your business or more will be buyers, but you need a good presentation for both. You need to be professional, have a great presentation for both. And the presentation needs to be more about them and what they need, not about you and how great you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we can put these in the show notes too. I'll send these to Kate, but we gave out, I'm sure you probably saw these. They came in a bunch of emails, but we sent out the list of, that's 2 PDFs. One is 105 or one's 179 ways, of what real estate professionals do during one transaction. And then they came out with another one and said, here's 105 more ways. So that's like 280 something ways or things that real estate agents actually do during one transaction that people don't know about, or they, just assume. But I've been sharing this with agents because if you are an agent and you're like, well, I know that I provide value, but I don't really know how to put it on paper, like start with some of these because there's so many things that you do. And ironically, I reached out to, I'll have to tell you more about this later, but I reached out to, next week I have coming on to our one team training, and he's actually going to come to my Kentucky office. The agent that I learned how to do listing appointments from, his name is Deuce Kirk. You might remember him. He was with KW forever, in Lexington. And he was my mentor when I passed my test and joined. At the time, it was GMAC, which then we merged into Remax. But he taught me how to do listing appointments, and I went on listing appointments and just watched him and shadowed him. And I'll never forget. And I mean, it's so smart, and he still does it today, but he had one laminated sheet. And when it got time to talk about commission or what they were going to pay, he slid it across the table, and it had 3 different percentages on it, like a higher one, a medium one, and a, a little bit discounted one. And each one showed what you got for that percentage. And he just said, here's what I charge, and you pick whichever one you want. And it was just a 1-pager laminated, and he whipped it out in every listing presentation. Then I called him and I said, I know I haven't talked to you in forever, but I really have a big favor. He said, what? I said, one day you said, like, what can I do for you? I said, today I'm cashing in on it. He was like, what is it? I said, I need you to come do that listing presentation for all my agents. He's like, oh, I'm happy to. I'm happy to. And he said, the crazy thing is not much has changed. I mean, there's new value, technology, some of that stuff. But for the most part, I mean, it's still pretty similar.
Yeah. Well, I remember years ago shadowing Diana in Denver, and she had the very similar thing. And that way, if services weren't important to them, they didn't have to pay for them.
Totally. Yep.
So it was pretty, and that was right when the technology was just coming out. And so I remember sitting at the table with this couple, and they were like, well, let's see, which one should we pick? Well, let's pick this one because, that technology, I'm hearing a lot about that technology stuff, and I think it's going to be real important. And they just talked to each other, and I'm just sitting there going, oh my God, this is working like magic. And so I think they picked the higher one because they wanted that technology thing that was going on.
So funny. But it's really smart because some people may not care if they have a video professionally done of their home. Other people may want, the whole 9 yards and everything. Some people may not want open houses. Other people may want one every Sunday. I mean, I think
you and I would always pick the highest tier. We want it all.
Yeah.
It's the most expensive. Yeah, I'm going to pick that one.
Well, but there is something to that because, and this is like such a stupid analogy, but it's so true. It's like, if you were having like a major tooth problem, you're not going to go to the person that you see on the billboard that says like root canal $199 special this month. Like, no. I'm out on that. Or if you needed to have, your heart, a stent put in, you're not going to like the special $500 stint this month. Like, I mean, when you
Oh.
know what you get with a professional, you also know what you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
just think sometimes we've gotten in this thing where like people forget that. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. Well, and I too, I think, if the person is highly responsible, the more money they're going to make, the more responsibility they're going to step up their game, and
Totally.
because they want to make sure that they over deliver to you. They don't want to, be the cheapest. They want to be somebody who brings the most value and
Yeah.
and get paid for it. So
I was so proud of Sarah the other day. She said, I used a script that you taught me. I'm like, well, conversation, I think we're supposed to say. And she said, I haven't got to use it in a really long time. And she said, but I felt so good to say it. And I said, well, what was it? And she said, I really meant it is why it felt good. And I said, well, what was it? And she said, well, the seller said, we want you to do it for, X%, which was really low. And she said, I'm sorry. Like, I can't do it for that. I don't, that's just not what I charge. I stick to my standard because here's, this is what I charge because blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, I feel like you should just give me a discount and do it for this. And also on the paperwork right now. And she said, Mr. whatever, I'll just say Mr. Seller. She said, other reason why I can't and why you wouldn't want me to is because if I can't negotiate for my own money, how well
I
do you
love
think I
that
can
script.
negotiate for you and your money? And she said he just totally paused. And she said that he was like, okay, well, that's kind of a good point. She said he still wanted to think about it, but it felt so good to say it because I meant it.
Well, it's moving people from emotion to logic. And I say that all the time with listings. You really got to think where there's emotion and move them to a logical place. How do you logically argue with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. You really can't, because you think about it. If they're just going to give away their own money, they're sure going to give away your money.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hold firm and say, I'm sorry, we're not willing to do that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's interesting. I am hearing conversations of agents thinking of maybe, not selling as much or maybe the one, and this happened actually today, once yesterday and once today. But I do think it is gonna be a little bit harder, meaning like I think they're gonna have to work like we used to have to work. The last couple of years, I mean, yeah, you've worked because you've written multiple offers but it's been a different kind of work. It's been more of
Yeah.
like a hustle instead of like it's exactly what Gary said. It's been more of a speed based, not a skill based. And I think for some of them that just aren't willing to learn the skills and actually put in the work to do the skills, those are the ones that I think we may see an exit out of the business,
Yeah. I mean, it was so much a part, I guess, getting in a down market, it was so much part of how I had to do business that I just have never understood how we got away from that. I don't even understand it. So we'll all be better off in the long run because we'll figure out, how to stay professional and be professional. And again, I think you don't make a decision out of fear. You give it some time. You say, you know what, I'm going to give this a chance. I'm going to go to the classes. I'm going to learn what I need to do. I'm going to learn how to give the presentations. Then I'm going to decide. Then I'm going to decide. But I think if you make your decision now based on the unknown or what you think it's going to be like, or the fear of not knowing what it's going to be like, I think you're going to make big mistakes. And always say, what are you going to do? If you go get a job somewhere, the first thing they're going to do is give you a job description. And you got a job description here, just follow it. And you're still gonna be fine. Still a great industry. But I think we have to get people away from the fear mongering and the fear of the unknown. I think, people make really bad decisions when they're coming from fear. I think about this all the time. I think don't make a decision during this time right now. The way you're feeling, if I'm down or blue or sad or mad or whatever, don't make a decision right now. Let that pass. Give it some effort. Try, see what it's going to be like. Then you can totally make a decision if you want to.
Yeah. It's so funny that you say that because I can't go like too deep into this, but I have an agent who is thinking about leaving to go work for like a new build rep. And they were always a top agent. I mean, always in the top 20%, always a top agent. And they've just had a really kind of slower last, I don't know, half a year into last year and beginning of this year, slow start. And they said they felt like that was their only choice. And I hated it because I really want to, and I am going to have a conversation with them still, actually, probably still this week, to say, like, if the 7 days in a row that you're going to sit, and I'm not saying anything, I repped new build and did that for 7 years. Like, I know all about that. However, if you're going to do that, the time that you're going to take to sit at that model for 7 days a week for a little bit of a cheaper commission, if you just took 25% of that time and worked your database, I mean, there's just no way there's no way. And I think, so it's funny that you just said that, because that's exactly what probably they need to hear. Like, just don't make a rash decision, just because you're scared.
Yeah, so true. Well, and I think, I always beat this drum, but if we have passive money coming in, we don't feel so in a bind.
Yep.
Or like a prisoner to something, and we can kind of let ourselves have some breathing room and make good decisions. But I just think every time we turn another corner, it's another big red flag of why we should always be building some wealth, some passive income, some, options for ourselves, so that we're not backed up. The thing that's for sure is life is going to hand you some stuff.
Yep.
It's going to hand you some graduallys and then suddenlies.
Yep.
And they feel different if you have prepared yourself and you have money coming in somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'm constantly thinking, okay, what's the next natural door that's trying to open that is natural, and I'm not changing industries and I'm not doing something completely different, but I'm creating another stream of income. And I just think we have to work more on that. We have to move that up on our priority list. We can't keep it, I'll do that someday.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Maybe we need to think about having an episode or two, I'm just thinking, where I think a lot of the passive income stuff that we have is really high level.
Yeah.
Maybe even more, just one where it's like, this is, if you have nothing passive, like this would be step one, or like the first thing. Cause I talked to so many agents, that
one of the things Press and I are working on our profit share sites is these people are building such massive databases that what we're going to work on next with them is just a small program that maybe those people would pay $25 a month, to get some ongoing help and training. You know what I'm saying? So I think there's so many ways, but we have to train our brain to look for those multiple streams and those next natural doors that are trying to open. Or what have I already spent a lot of time and energy in that I could now see if those people, because if you think about it, when you and I really like somebody, we want something else to buy from them.
Totally.
We want another way to be in relationship with them. We want another opportunity with them. I think
so
about that.
True. That's so true. Like that Kayla Barnes girl that I follow on Instagram. Did you see she's coming out with a community?
Oh, is she okay. Is she the dark-headed girl from the South? Okay, she can have a baby. She just found out she's gonna have a baby.
No, that's not her. I don't think she's gonna have a baby.
What is Kayla talking about?
Kayla Barnes is the one from Cleveland. She is like, she's my favorite health person to follow on Instagram. Like, I'm obsessed with her. You follow her, I know, because I sent her to you, but she recently moved to California, but actually met somebody, or I know somebody who's small world, went to high school with her. So I'm like, can we get her to the summit this year in Charleston? So I'm working on that, but she is like so crazy smart. But I mean, anything she says, like, I'm on it. I follow, I look, like everything. And she just started coming out of the community. And what you said is perfect. Like, I have been waiting forever for her to come out with something, because I wanted more of what she, has.
Yeah, but multiple streams of income is a way of thinking. So let's do that. We'll do an episode on how do you think in the form of multiple streams of income, and what are some ideas, and we'll just brainstorm and throw some out. We'll look for some different ones that people are doing. I just think it's a mindset. And when you start training your brain to look for those, you're gonna see those. I've never regretted one single extra stream of income that we've put together, because there's always been a time when I thought, oh God, thank God we got that extra stream of income coming in case this happens or in case that happens.
Yeah, it's so true. And I will say, like, I think I waited way too long. I wish I would have started like in my 20s, but I didn't. So now I just have to hurry and play catch up with it. But it does get to a point too where it's kind of like, I don't like to use the word addictive, but once you kind of start, then you're like, okay, wow, like this really feels good. And so I want to try to get another and do more and get another, because I don't know, it's nice to just have passive income showing up.
Yeah. Yeah. Takes the pressure off for sure. Helps you make better decisions. Helps you give yourself some space. Awesome. Okay. Well, good. Well, let's everybody calm down.
Yeah.
We're going to be fine. Still a great industry.
Yeah.
And we got to let the dust settle first, and then we got to jump into all the training. So I'm glad you're doing that training. We'll link a couple things. We'll link my listing class that's on online class on how to take 10 plus listings a month forever. And then your thing on Wednesday on the value, or what is yours called? Thursday.
Yep.
And what's it called?
It's just called an update on the NAR settlement and value. Like, I'm just going to take some of the stuff from Gary's and share that for some of the people who don't have access to that. Yeah, great. So that'll be 2 things to watch for, and we'll put the links in there. So remember, if you have not hit the subscribe button, please go ahead and do that now. And the greatest compliment you could pay Dana and I is to pass this podcast along to anyone who would enjoy these conversations. And of course, hit the subscribe button and give us a review. We'd love that. And if you have a challenge, an opportunity, or a topic you'd like discussed on the podcast, or a guest, be sure and reach out to us at info@everything life and real estate. So Dana, I guess I'll see you next week. Sounds good. See you then.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.